Hello, and welcome to Shop Talk Live, the future of drive-through and convenience store planning. On today's episode, Dan Munford is joined by Joe Bona, President of Bona Design Lab, Murshed Mohammed, co-founder of DRIVU, and from Emirat we have Darren Smith, Senior Marketing, Retail Marketing, and Nabil At-Yusuf, Network Planning Coordinator. And finally, from Shopworks, Craig Phillipson, the MD. Over to you, Dan.
Welcome to Shop Talk Live. We're joined by 26 countries for today's episode. Welcome back. It's been a few weeks. We've got lots of Shop Talk Lives coming up over the next couple of months. I think really exciting episode today, looking at the future of drive-through and convenience store planning. Everybody knows that we've had a lot of changes in consumer behaviour, and I guess we all agree on that. It's a question of how the industry, how convenience stores and forecourt operators worldwide adapt. And we're really starting to see a lot of that adaptation coming through. In today's program, in the second part, we're going to be looking inside the store and changes there. But in the first part of the program, we're going to be looking into what's happening outside the store. So the episode is going to begin with a 15-minute conversation between me and Joe Bona, looking at the current global race to create a seamless and integrated drive-through. The next segment of the program after that will be really continuing on the theme. We'll be featuring DRIVU, Dubai-based business, which is across the Middle East, looking at how operators without a drive-through infrastructure can still offer a very convenient curbside pickup offer. So very connected. Then in the second part of the show, the last 25 minutes of the show, we're going to be featuring Emirat and looking at their innovations with and how they've developed their format, their latest format, and really looking at talking to Darren and Nabil and Craig Phillipson from Shopworks on a big project which was really about new thinking and category focus and really creating a whole new customer flow and category placement in store. Many of you will have already had a taste of what they've done, which is very impressive in the pre-watch video, which the guys kindly supplied. So hopefully that's quite well teed up for you. Let's get straight into the first part of the program, and let me welcome Joe Bona from New York. Morning, Joe. How are you doing?
Good. Good afternoon. How you doing, Dan?
Very good. Now, let's get straight into your presentation, Joe. You've done a few Shop Talk Lives, so I don't think we need to give you much more of an introduction than that. And let's let me ask you about drive-through and how it's developing globally. And I put a few slides into this one as well, and we're going to be knocking it back and forward as we do. So why don't we take it away?
Great. Yeah, so, one of the things that, we've been talking about and hearing a lot about is drive-through. And, the more that I thought about it as it relates to our industry, at least, is, there's sort of this risk reward. And I think it's not just the opportunity itself, but it's the impact on facilities. And I think it's just maybe worth sort of just talking a little bit about what some of those risks and obviously what some of the opportunity is. And and so I think that the pandemic has sort of forced more people to consider drive-through than ever before. It's caused a lot of retailers, especially in the QSR sector, to start to rethink the efficiencies and how does it work and how do they handle all the increased volume, and so that's been one big concern. And we also have been reading and seeing that a lot of the drive-through times have actually increased by a half a minute, and so at some point you've got to recognize that there'll be a limit to how much people will be willing to wait in line, especially if everybody in front of you is 36 seconds longer. So yeah, so I think it's just worth sort of exploring a little bit about some of these
It's interesting you should say that, Joe. I remember when we first got into these discussions at the start of Shop Talk Live back in April, I think, and I think you were in the first or second episode, and you you were surprised because you were seeing 2-hour wait times for customers queuing for drive-thrus, which had just opened up. Perhaps this was May, and they just opened up, and at that point customers were prepared to wait for 2 hours to get their drive-thru. I think that's long gone, isn't it? You know, that's and so this has become a real, I guess, operational consideration for operators, you know, in terms of how they keep that efficient and how they keep those customers happy and make it convenient.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think in May, it was a very different story. You know, people were locked in their homes for, you know, weeks on end at this point. And it was, the pandemic was new, nobody was sure what was going on. And I think that 2-hour wait in a queue kind of gave you an opportunity to get out of the house and do something. Everything else was sort of shut down, so it almost became a social thing. But I think now, as things have opened back up and people are back into normal routines, you know, long queues with this added time, I think is a bit of a concern. And so how companies handle that and address that will be, you know, interesting going forward.
Very good.
Next. You know, the opportunity, you know, these are sort of things that I've been reading about, and, you know, in the QSR industry, this is, I think, US based data, but in the US industry, you know, the QSR, you know, fast food industry was down about 30% around May, when, you know, sort of the early goings. But from April to June, you know, McDonald's was only down 2.3%. So they recovered almost immediately, and it's specifically due to drive-through. And the same goes for Popeyes, another QSR chain here in the US. They actually saw growth of 25%. And then Burger King were up 2.5%. So it really shows the impact and the opportunity of drive-through. So when things were shut down, there was not a lot of places to go. You know, people really went to drive-through. They embraced it, and it actually helped a lot of these companies sort of really accelerate and you know, maintain good, positive business.
I guess, Joe, just talking to many companies who felt themselves fortunate to have a drive-through option, I guess, you know, one of their considerations as they saw this develop and then stabilize it with very high proportion of sales going through the drive-through as opposed to going through, I guess, the more traditional in-store route. They've started to think about things differently. Rather than have a drive-through bolted onto the side of their store, they're starting to think along the lines of having a store bolted alongside of their drive-through.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the other thing that they're looking at is that if they're going to generate 70% of their business through a drive-through window, which is what most analysts are predicting, then of course that has impact on smaller site size, smaller store footprints, more efficient kitchen layouts, you know, and you know, less real estate taxes, less capital. So there's actually less labor and operational costs. So there's obviously some benefit to going small and being a lot more efficient through drive-through than just sort of, you know, getting customers through in a quick way. But it's not just drive-throughs. You know, we're seeing this increase of multiple technologies. And so this, you know, slide of what's old is new again, you know, and in the 40s and 50s, car hops, you know, where this, you know, is the cars were exploding in the US market in around the 40s, and fast food was just coming into its own. You know, the idea of a car hop, you could actually sit in your car and they would, you know, on roller skates come and deliver a plate or a tray, I should say, and they would clip it to your window. And then you would sit in your car and you would eat. Well, you know, we're almost back there again because of COVID, where maybe we don't have people on roller skates, but we certainly are seeing an increase in people really thinking through how they can get you food without you actually having to go in the store and interact with people. And I think a lot of these things we're finding are going to start to stick.
When I posted this picture of Shake Shack's drive-through ideas, and someone commented and they said, Shake Shack, this is the, you know, the holy grail of drive-throughs. And it's I think this picture made a big impact on people, because obviously Shake Shack have a great reputation as a, you know, as a high quality operator, and really, you know, this is a big change if this is how they see the future.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, also with Chipotle and others, you know, drive-through has really taken on much more significance in how they see the future of their business and how they want to serve customers. And, you know, now we're starting to see multiple lanes, drive-through only, app-based lines. They're really even trying to segment within the drive-through different transactions. So if you're ordering online, you know, there's a separate pickup lane for you. If you're just going to go the traditional way and order, you know, you'll go into a normal queue. So they're really sort of exploring all the different ways that they could serve people, and drive-through just seems to be the one area where everybody is really looking to study pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Burger King, interesting as well.
Yeah, I thought, you know, this was a video that I was able to actually pull off of the internet, and it's a story that I read about Burger King's new store of the future. And the thing about this that I really enjoyed is that they seem to have really thought through all of the things that you're going to talk about today. You know, app-based ordering and pickup, curbside pickup. You know, the old car hop idea, you know, multiple drive-through lanes. They even have food lockers. So if you want to, you know, pre-order, park, and come out, and there's actually a locker with your food in it. So it's just really a great way of showing how all of these ideas are being integrated into one seamless experience. And I actually see this where sort of the digital world and the brick and mortar world are really sort of coming together. You know, here's the mobile pickup point. You can see the lockers. Really, really interesting. Multiple drive-through lanes, as you could see here. And the idea is just it's speed of service. So you're trying to serve more people. So multiple lanes helps facilitate that. And then one of the things that I really liked is you'll see here. Now, we talked about this, Dan, you know, several months ago. There's this idea of open architecture. Instead of a little hatch that a hand comes out of, you're actually sort of celebrating the employees and the operation. And you know, just having open architecture as you're in that queue line, you know, I think just gives a little bit more legitimacy to things being freshly prepared and just having your employees on stage a little bit. So really well thought through. They really sort of thought through everything and then found a way to integrate it all into a really pretty
highly impressive. I agree, you know, and great video. And as you say, just flagging up one of the points that you raised about open architecture. That's the thing. I mean, if a majority of your customers are staying in their car, you know, how do you communicate to them what's in the store? You need to think about how people see it from their vehicle, don't you, Joe, as you say?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's a way of communicating, you know, things are being freshly made and prepared, and, you know, it's not just in a microwave and sort of thrown in a bag and thrown at you. So I think it really sort of helps communicate, you know, quality of food and service, basically. And so, you know, how does this relate to our industry? You know, obviously
I could pick this one up a bit, just giving a bit of background on EG Group, because and maybe you could talk about Wawa, Joe, but the three pictures on the left were part of a preview watch that EG Group provided for a previous edition of Shop Talk Live, and they have some of their newest sites with, you know, the large sort of flagship sites that they're building now have, you know, not one drive-through, not two drive-throughs, but you know, they have a Greg's, a KFC, and a Starbucks drive-through all on the same site, and you know, it's a pretty big statement.
Yeah, definitely. And I was saying, you know, I think a lot of the learnings that our industry are taking from the QSR industry, you know, they're starting to rethink how it affects their offer and how they want to serve customers in the future. And so, again, this was just something that we pulled off the off the news, online news, where we read about Wawa, you know, experimenting with a new store format, which is drive-through only. So, you know, our industry is also going to be experimenting with, you know, maybe smaller footprints, smaller lot sizes. You know, how do you reach more customers by being able to go into locations that you couldn't previously go to? And if you have a lower cost operating model, then, maybe drive-through, kind of fills in the gaps in your real estate strategy. So, it just seems that our industry is starting to look at ways where perhaps drive-through can become ultimately a good vehicle for their growth as well.
Oh, it's such a good point, isn't it? Obviously, the whole configuration and size of the site and the number of employees can change, can't it? Based upon obviously the everyday scenario of more of your customers staying in their cars. One thing I just wanted to flag up, this was a surprise slide, Joe, which we just added this morning, is this was my morning coffee. EG Group have opened one of their new to industry sites just near our offices here in Shrewsbury in Shropshire and in the centre of the UK. And obviously it's one of those multi-site locations. It's got separate Starbucks, but I think the thing about EG Group is they don't hang around, and they've already taken some of the things that we were talking about just a couple of months ago, Joe, and they've implemented a whole sort of different, I'd say, site layout, which I'm not showing here, but you can see from that picture there, the way they've positioned the windows. It's not just a hatch with a hand coming through it, as you said. It's something which really sort of emphasizes it, Joe, and makes it a key part of the building design.
Well, I think it adds a bit of personalization. I think people still ultimately, there's a part of the human condition where we want to engage with other people. And so maybe there's a safety thing of us not wanting to go into stores anymore, and drive-throughs being, one efficient way of getting us through quicker. But I think just having employees on stage and you could see them and you still feel safe, but I think it's a way of just celebrating the level of customer service and putting sort of employees on stage. So I think in multiple ways it just helps the drive-through experience and maybe adds a touch of personality to it.
Yeah, very good. And I guess so. Looking ahead, just coming to the end of the presentation, Joe. I mean, operators have to think about drive-through, but they're also thinking about reconfiguring the site to include EV charging as well, aren't they? So there's lots to think about, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think we maybe even shared this the slide in an earlier presentation, but I think the point here is people think about drive-through. It's really about serving customers. It's not about drive-through, and I think it's about rethinking the site in its entirety. And how do you integrate all of these new technologies, all of these new ways of serving people? And I think it's just going to require some different thinking. And I think as it relates to our industry, the one complication we have over QSR is that we got this big canopy that has pumps underneath it. And so, we've got an additional traffic circulation and a different mission that we have to address. So I think, our industry will have to really take a hard look at drive-through. And as you say, it's not bolting it onto the building, but it's sort of taking the whole site and building it around the idea of drive-through. And so I think this is just intended to sort of suggest maybe now is the time that our industry has to start rethinking how our sites of the future should look, and how much of these new technologies and ways of serving people do we want to integrate into our overall site plan. So, I think that would be our recommendation, is that as you think about the future, think about it holistically and how you integrate all of these things in a unified and seamless way.
No, absolutely. Now, moving seamlessly on it, Joe, if you could stay with us for the next 10 minutes, and if I could invite Murshed Mohammed onto the webinar. Who's going to be talking to us about DRIVU. Hello, Murshed. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Dan. Hello,
let me just tee you up. So we've just been talking about obviously new to industry sites, which give operators an opportunity to rethink their layouts, think about drive-through integration, EV charging, and so on. But obviously this kind of thing costs a lot of money and requires huge investment. And you've got a lot of existing sites you can't do that on, or it's complicated. I think what I like about what you're doing, what you're offering, Murshed, is obviously you're offering options for curbside pickup for operators without them having to invest in that infrastructure. So we'd love to hear a bit more about what you're doing.
Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for the introduction. It's clear that the consumer behavior has changed in the past few months, And when the lockdown happened almost everywhere, we noticed a huge spike with orders in DRIVU in the UAE specifically. And we asked this question, will this spike continue? Because these lockdowns are all temporary. Will people continue to order on the same growth rate? And in the recent months, we've seen that the growth has stabilized. So I would say that the necessity moved them to try out these new things, but the convenience and speed kept them. And the new behavior is becoming more of this stickiness with the new behavior that people, they found this more convenient, they found it faster. As Joe said, they want to be served. They don't want something else. That's why they're ordering.
Now,
so
show us how it works, and then we can cross-question you a bit, because I'm just thinking about the audience, and I'm very excited and familiar with what you're doing, but it needs a bit of explanation.
Definitely. We've started DRIVU in 2017, and with the aim of helping businesses to have in the retail industry overall, not a specific sector, but everyone really in the retail industry, to have a drive-through option without having any capital expenses in terms of infrastructure or changes. So we think DRIVU is fast, and DRIVU is faster. It's all about speed. It's all about the convenience for the customers and for the businesses. As I said, there is no renovations required. There is no setup costs required. What we've seen from our data that customers spend almost 50% higher when they use DRIVU, because of the convenience, because of the menu, their convenience. They see the menu, they see what people also bought in Amazon. When you add something to the cart, you see this people also bought. We do the same, and this encourages people to discover new items. We've seen that people repeatedly order because of the convenience. As you see from the screenshots, the moment customers order, we guide them to the location with the blue line. So that the guidance part is very helpful. We tell them what's the estimated time of arrival, the status of the order, it's accepted or pending or something else. With the click of a button, they can order their favorite beverage or order. And so they don't need to open the menu and find everyone, the whole thing, go through the whole process again. And then when they arrive, that's where it's really great. When they arrive, we guide them where to stay. So we don't require there is no physical sign that says wait here, not necessarily. We tell them where to stay. Maybe it's at the back. Maybe there is a parking lot that is 50 meters on the side, not in front of the shop itself. So maybe it's at the back of the building. Maybe it's inside the building, but somewhere within that building. So we guide them exactly where to stay. So yeah, and without leaving the car for sure. The thing is, with DRIVU, the order accuracy, it's really high because the customer sees the pictures. They read the details, the options, add more, less sugar, more sugar, and all these details are very, very clear to the customer and for the staff. So it's not like the customer said something and the staff heard something else. It's clearly appearing in their tablet. There's no wastage because the customer actually, when he will arrive and want to pay for that. This is like the DRIVU map where shops are located. So there is this brand recognition where people will see your brand even if they didn't order from you now. Through it, people can avoid car lining outside the shop or car honking and sometimes getting fines from the police because they're blocking the road and all that. The whole idea is to order before arriving, and they know where you are on the map and how long you need to arrive to serve you on time as you arrive.
Good.
So yeah, we also offer instant staff support. If there is any issue, we are one click away. We can help them with many things. If a shop is suddenly busy, they can go offline and go back online anytime. They have full control and flexibility on the menu, on the offerings. That's also there. This is how it looks like from the shop point of view. You can see like there is 3 orders. One of them is 11 minutes away. One of them is waiting outside. So you can decide when to prepare and for who to prepare. The reference is the car number. So the moment the customer comes, you go to his car. He orders a single espresso. He wants the cup to be covered. So there is a place where he can type something. It's paid online, so you don't need to carry cash or a machine with you, card machine to take the payments.
Very good. There's a culture of drive-through in the Middle East anyway, prior to the pandemic.
Sure.
That's right, isn't it, Murshed?
It is. And the main thing was because we thought earlier that people were lazy, but the actual reason was it's just hot. The weather doesn't allow you to just walk and park and find.
Yeah.
It's so it became part of a necessity by time. So yeah, I mean, we have different brands from different sectors, you know, from ice creams to gas stations. Emirat is a famous petrol station in the UAE. We have also food from restaurants, and we have hundreds of shops across 12 cities in the region as well. This is like a view from the map of Dubai. As you can see, we have all over. Wherever there are people, you'll find shops there, even in remote areas. The next slide will show you the map of the UAE where shops are located on DRIVU. Yeah. So the next slide would also show you a quick video of how a magical experience, you know, rather than even park in a parking, they just waited on the side. They found the customer and they got what they wanted. This is another video. So it's quick, it's convenient, it's highly efficient. There is no infrastructure changes that is required. And especially after the lockdown, we had rules that there is no dine-in. So that became even a necessity for the shops as well, because people cannot go inside even if they are walking outside.
Now, I've got lots of questions, but Joe, we've got a couple of minutes left. What's your reaction to this? Because I think you haven't seen as much of this as I have.
No, it's funny. When Murshed was talking about in the very beginning, he said that they found that order accuracy actually was 100%, and also that people tended to buy more. And I was thinking, you know, if you remember back when the industry and the convenience store industry first moved to touchscreen ordering, it was really about ways of just trying to get people through checkouts quicker. But what we found out over time is when people were in charge, they tend to order more, and their order accuracy is always 100% because they're the ones that did it. So I'm almost seeing the shift from touchscreen ordering to it's now on your phone and you're in total control, and I don't have to go to just one place, but I can sit in my car and pick any place I want to go and have that same sort of you know, online experience. So it really is sort of moving that way forward, and it's pretty impressive.
We're looking forward for the day where we can add the DRIVU to Tesla cars, where it orders by itself the moment you arrive.
well, Elon Musk often listens into these shop talks, so you know, I'm sure he'll be calling you, Murshed.
Sure.
I wish. Any other points on this, Joe, before you know, we finish this segment, which is all about what happens outside of the store?
Well, I think it's, again, the idea, excuse me, it's this idea of how the digital world and brick and mortar are really coming together in a much more seamless way. I think all of this, one isn't replacing the other. It's how retailers embrace all of these technologies and really think about their, you know, about their footprint and their offer and their store, and you know, going forward. I think it's having open arms and embracing all of this, and then figuring out how to deliver it in a really seamless way.
Great. Well, look, Murshed, Joe, I'd like to thank you for featuring in the first part of this shop talk, and fascinating. And congratulations to you, Murshed, on how well that's going for you, and thank you for sharing it with the rest of the world, you know, because obviously it's something which seems to be developing really quickly in your region. So, you know, it's really interesting for us to think about how that could be relevant to other parts of the world. So thank you very much. Really interesting. Please stay and listen. But if you could just mute now, and we'll go to the second part of the program.
Sure. Thank you.
So we've thought about what happens outside of the store. Well, let's get inside the store now. And if I could welcome Craig, Darren, and Nabil to Shop Talk Live. Welcome, guys.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, I mean, just as we start the second part, I'd just like to say thank you for the introduction to Murshed. Obviously, you work with DRIVU, and suggested that was an interesting discussion to bring into the program, and I think it definitely was. However, let's focus on the inside of the store, and what you've kindly agreed to do is to showcase your new store format and your new store interior, and show us the project that you've recently completed with Craig at Shopworks. And obviously, quite a lot of people listening or watching now will have already seen the preview video, which was the pre-watch that we put out at the beginning of the week. So they should have a good idea of where the project ended up with the new store format. Look, welcome Nabil, welcome Darren and Craig. Perhaps we could start by, Darren, if I could start by just asking you about this case. You know, this is a very nice case study, but thinking about the big investment and the big project that Emirat have delivered here. Why did you do it, and why Shopworks?
I think the thing was that Emirat decided to build its first completely new convenience store design for well, actually 25 years. And I think it was time that we had to do something to really bring ourselves up to date and to get our range to really reflect what the customer wants today. What tended to happen with our category managers is that they tend to list and list and list, but they're not very good at delisting. So we tended to end up with a very heavy product range. And I think getting Craig on board brought all that expertise and all that knowledge of number crunching that we needed to really make that change to our range.
That makes perfect sense. Now, Craig, I think you're going to sort of take us through the steps of the project, and then we can get back into a Q&A with everybody once you've talked us through some of the stages of delivering this project.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Darren and Dan. So this was where we started. So, you know, what I would describe as a fairly traditional petrol forecourt retail store. Well, we've got a little bit of jumping around, but as you look to the right, as you come in, there you can see the counter, which is the direction in which everybody who isn't who's on a planned visit, and then to the left you've got the back area. So very much people are really coming in, turning right. You know, at the counter they can get their confectionery, they can get their cigarettes. Other markets you can get lottery and so forth, and that really tends to drive the way that people walk through the store. As you can see from the pictures, it was a fairly cluttered, or maybe we could say very cluttered environment, with a lot of range across a lot of different categories. So what that really meant was that in terms of the floor plan, Nick, if we could go to the next slide. So what we were trying to do is we were trying to understand what consumers wanted to do within the store, and then apply the planning principles. So I think what's important now, Dan, and to go back to what we've just been hearing from Murshed and Joe, is that these customer journeys are really changing now. So, you know, if you put yourself in the steps of your customers and ask them what they want to experience from a distance, at the window, on the threshold, or inside the store, that, you know, there's a whole overlay of stuff that's coming through now, such as, you know, safety, hygiene, and so forth. And although this project kicked off before the pandemic, you know, luckily, with some of the solutions we came up with, it's actually played into protecting customers in terms of guiding them clearly through the store, making it possible for very straightforward queuing, and also, you know, it plays to the technology elements of people wanting to pay by phone, or all the other elements of technology that are being brought forward because of the pandemic. So, you know, the first part is understanding what the customer journey is. The second part is then applying the planning principles. And the planning principles, you know, so make as much of the store as we can, so equalise the value of the space, guide customers through it, get the sight lines, angles and access right, and then do the category overlay on top of that. And again, you know, that's a constantly moving feast. But in terms of what the store was looking like when we started, people were coming through the door, principally turning right to the counter, which meant that, and we've coloured it red for simplicity, but around 6% of the store was passed by people on a straight to counter journey. Now, Dubai is an attended market, so people going into the store will shop the shop a bit more than that. But if you think to unattended markets where people have to go into the store to pay, that unidirectional journey is much more prevalent. So that's what we were seeing before. We then had a look at the category sales to do the category overlay. Nick, if we could move on to the next slide. And what we did is we started to look at the range and analyze the range so that we could start to say, okay, if we look at each of the categories and look at the percentage of the sales, and then look at the space efficiency of those categories, so how much space you need per SKU, how likely was it that categories would increase sales if we increase the space to them, how substitutable is the category, so screen wash, for example, is highly substitutable, i.e. if there's screen wash there and it doesn't have your brand, you don't really mind, you'll buy it. And then how likely is the category to respond to impulse purchasing? So we apply a score to each category and then reallocate the space based on our prediction of future sales. And again, Dan, we have to be a little bit careful at this time because, you know, some categories have come back into fashion because of COVID, if I can term it that way. But we then look at the range analysis, and what we saw there within Emirat, and we've just taken two examples here, was that if you look at car care and lubes, what we saw is that we could reduce the range by 80% and still achieve 90% of the sales. Or in food category, we could reduce the range by 50% and still achieve 90% of the sales. And what that meant was that we could sit down with Darren and Nabil and say, look, either we start to increase new categories, so we know that there were early adopters of the cafe and the bakeria, and so we could expand the space given to that, we could give it more dominance, or we could introduce new categories such as fresh, or we could just let the shop breathe a little bit and add seating. So we knew from the category analysis that lots of the stuff that was already in the shop wasn't selling at all, and that allowed us to come back with a different floor plan. So
absolutely. Let me bring Nabil in. Nabil, you're very close to this. I mean, those numbers, just going back a slide, perhaps just to remind ourselves of those numbers, they're pretty powerful, aren't they, Nabil? Were you surprised by some of those conclusions?
Hi, Dan. No, I don't think we were really surprised by those numbers. We all know about the rule of the 20/80. I think it applies to all retail businesses. Like Darren was saying, I think it was easy for our team to just add convenience store products. You have in Dubai more than 140 nationalities, so you're trying to please everyone and just add products and products. But I mean, we knew that we had to reduce our range, but some categories were just like overloaded with products, and it was quite a challenge internally to speak and to explain that to our team, our convenience store team, our merchandiser, to say, guys, we have to reduce the range. We have to focus on what's selling more, and we'll keep the same sales and even make more sales in the future.
Makes sense, Craig.
So thank you, Nabil. So what that then meant was that we moved the counter to the back of the store, which I know that Darren will comment on that later. And what we tried to do is we tried to attract people straight through to the chilled drinks area, and then really drive them past the bakeria counter, so that everybody who was almost on any shopping mission within the store were exposed to the key goods within the store. And we know that we know that we have to get people within 1.2 meters of products in order to sell it to them. So, you know, the original figure was 6% of good selling space, and we managed to get that up to 65%. So it just gives people more of a chance to buy the products or be exposed to products that they may then choose to buy. Why that's important in today's market is that if you can create these very clear journeys through stores, it's much easier then to manage your customers who want to stay 1.5 meters apart from each other. You know, queuing has become much more important. And then what's really helping us and has helped Emirat throughout this journey is the application of technology to understand what customers are doing. So, you know, the Trackonomics philosophy is that you blend your CCTV or camera analysis of your customers. You can now blend that with your sales data and your planogram information. And that really starts to give you, in a kind of AI or machine learning methodology, it really gives you deep insight into what your customers are doing on their journeys, how long they're dwelling in different areas, whether they're taking products from the shelf, which you can relate back to your EPOS and your planograms. So it starts to give you huge depth of information.
So just bringing you in, Darren, very interesting, Craig, but bringing you in, Darren, I guess, you know, one of your priorities was to drive the bakeria part of your store, and this it appears to be pretty successful in doing that.
I think one thing is, I think most of us on this chat have all been in the business for a long time. So therefore you get to know the business very well, but you see it from your perspective and you see it day after today. So I think what we did with the video was we actually went back and really studied what our customers do when they walk into the shop and tried to see things from their perspective. And I think what Craig showed before was that people would come into the shop, they turned right and they left. We found that areas of the shop was underutilized, and that's really why we started Bakeria. But more interestingly, we also find that, you know, gondola ends and prime selling areas that we thought were prime selling areas, actually the customer didn't even go to. So it really changed the way that we merchandise the shop, and this is a follow-on from that.
So we can talk about this in a bit more detail, but let's just remind ourselves of where you ended up, Craig.
Yeah, so again, you know, when the doors reveal, you know, what you're seeing is a core category. So you're kind of naturally being pulled through towards the chilled drinks. You've got promotional and fresh to your left as you come in. You know, you're drawn through to the back of the store, and you know that your destination point is to your right at the back, and there you are inevitably as you go down the journey down the back of the store. You're going past that on your left hand side. You're going past the full bakeria offer, and we know that, you know, from sales data that putting those two things together, the bakeria and the counter, that improves sales of both. So Nick, probably if we should leave ourselves on the beautiful pictures.
And just talking about results, Nabil, have you seen an uplift in, obviously it's early days and we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I guess it's difficult, but have you seen an uplift in bakeria in the new stores that you've opened?
What we've seen, Dan, it's now the bakeria and Cafe Arabica is next to our convenience store. As Darren was saying before, it was on the opposite side. So now we have everyone who's going to the convenience store and to the cash counter, passing by the bakeria, looking at the products, the prices, the coffee menu, and actually we've seen an increase of our bakeria Cafe Arabica sales versus the convenience store sales. So we have a better balance between the bakeria, Cafe Arabica, and the C-store. So yes, we want to focus and emphasize on the bakeria and Cafe Arabica because We have higher margin on that. The coffee margin is quite high, and as well as the bakery. So, and it's also create the whole convenience store as a destination. You don't come for bakery and cafe arabica because it's convenient, it's a petrol station, it's easy, but because you love the cheese croissant, you love the sandwich, the coffee. So it creates also more loyalty with the customers. So very happy with that. I remember actually when we opened the first stations, because customers were so used to have the cash counter on the right. One customer came in and he was looking for the cash counter, and he told me, "Where is it?" I said, "Oh, sorry, it's there on the right hand side. So you have to walk and go there." So it took a little bit time for customers to get used to it, but I would say that they love the design, they love the new layout, especially women's. There are more space for them to go around the shop. You know, we are in a Muslim country, so they have more space. They are not feeling like you know, oppressed, I would say. Our staff, they love the convenience store as well. The suppliers also, they have more space, and our competitors as well. They love our design. They are changing their design, their new stations just to be a little bit like this. They don't pay Craig anything, but
well, the vote of confidence, that's what you want to. If your competitors are saying that, you're doing the right thing. Darren, a question for you, just thinking about suppliers, which Nabil mentioned. What do suppliers think about some of the ranging decisions? Obviously, some bad news for them, as well as as well as good news for those that get more products sold.
I think the suppliers are very impressed. They're used to just having their products listed, and now that we delisted so many products, they're not happy. But from our point of view, it's good because we go back to the suppliers now and we can really negotiate with each individual supplier, and then the ones that give us the best deals are the ones that get into the new shop, because I think the opportunities presented by the available space give them higher sales and more visibility. You know, traditionally in a convenience store, you're used to walking down aisles which are maybe just about a meter apart, but here there's real high visibility. So we're in a stronger negotiating position with suppliers because we have less products and they have better opportunity from that.
We're overrunning. Let me just bring in one question, and this was addressed to you, Darren. Are you thinking about serving more self-serve hot food as in terms of the way you do the hot food offer? Is more self-serve on the cards? I don't know whether that's something you can comment on, but it was a question that's come in.
You know, with the pandemic, everything's up in the air at the moment. We're really trying to figure out how the customer's thinking, what the customer wants next. Self-serve is, we were going that way before the pandemic, and during the pandemic we sort of stopped most of our self-service offers for hygiene issues primarily. We did have a plan to introduce hot ready-to-go food and more self-serve, and I think we'll go back that way, but I think we'll give it a few months first, you know, until the situation settles down and people regain more confidence in our business.
Very good. Well, we've got a few more questions, but we're starting to run over, and we always try to keep it to what everyone's got in their diary who's watching. So look, I think it's been a really interesting session. It looks like a very successful project and implementation. So Craig, well done, and thank you, Darren and Nabil, for spending some time and sharing with us and the global industry you know, some of your developments, which I think are, you know, highly relevant subject matter right now. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dan. Could I just tie it back just for 1 second to what Joe said earlier?
Yeah.
You know, I think life is now all about total site profitability, and you know, I think looking at Joe's stuff and your stuff from the start, and Murshed's app, and the internal dilemmas of the shop, it's clear that all of us need to think clearly about how we can integrate, you know, how we can improve outside and how we can improve inside in order just to make the customer experience better all around. And it's just a really clear integrated message. So anyway, thank you, Dan.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, Joe, you've come back in, so I'm going to have to say, do you agree?
Yeah, of course. I think that's, I think we're all sort of a bit reading from the same playbook. The future looks bright and promising with lots of new innovation and technologies, and from layouts and designs to apps and all kinds of things, drive-throughs, and it's just going to be really fun to continue to watch and our industry evolve. And retailers are impressive people. They're innovative as heck, and they're always trying to stay a step ahead of the competition. So I always look forward to seeing what all these great retailers come up with next.
Very good. Well, guys, look, thank you very much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be meeting again soon. So appreciate you taking part in Shop Talk Live, Joe, Murshed, Darren, Nabil, and Craig as well. So see you soon, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Very good. Very good. Now, just before we finish, just to flag up what's coming next with Shop Talk Live, we've got a very exciting proposition for you, which we're calling the Big Green Reset. So this is two editions, 2 programs of Shop Talk Live, which will be focused on sustainability. It hasn't gone away. It's a big issue with consumers, and we'll be finding out how that's an opportunity and a concern for retailers. So we're going to have 2 editions. The Big Green Reset focused on the convenience store on the 16th of October, 2 p.m. UK time, looking at plastic waste, food waste, and health. And then really looking on the 30th in part 2, the Big Green Reset on the forecourt as opposed to the store, and really focusing on carbon offset, carbon footprint, and of course, electric vehicles. And across those 2 episodes, we've got some very exciting guests. Debbie Robinson, who's appeared a few times on Shop Talk Live, very well known and very interesting figure in the convenience industry in the UK, with Central England Cooperative. Brian Donaldson from Maxwell Ireland, Andrew Thornton, who's one of the biggest names in sustainability as far as food retail is concerned in the UK. Nate Marsh from Greenprint, very interesting business in this space, and of course we're going to have some consumer data from Global Data. Mark Dempsey will be featuring as well. So all wrapped up in a very interesting couple of episodes coming up, and included in that will be a pre-watch of one of Circle K's new flagship stores, just in the highly developed EV testing market that is Norway. So it's going to be a pretty interesting couple of episodes focused on sustainability coming up soon. Finally, just to thank everybody in the audience for staying tuned in to Shop Talk Live across the 13 episodes. Yeah, 13 we've done now. We've had almost 4,000 viewers from 58 countries. So we'll keep driving that total up, and appreciate you spending time with us. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Good afternoon.